And if we think we can, if you feel comfortable that we can just.
You know the date.
Categories, and you have a map or a description that's
Supporting.
Hello, gentlemen.
Have you seen
Hello.
the
Hi.
laptop?
where do I find them?
Just Google URAP. UWRAP.
Hey there, Paul.
Hi, Dave.
How you doing tonight?
Just
Good.
And go to public view.
I wouldn't expect anything less of this.
There's disclaimer.
I
And then if you zoom in on us.
It's much better than easier to see.
Sure. Yeah. I'm grateful that we're back in the meeting room.
I mean, so if we want to use these URAP maps, say, hey, look at all these.
That's us, right there.
You can add, so if it's saying historical, the historical had to be before June 1st, right?
You can't make historical definition. That's what you would just have to say that present conditions.
Let's do this.
Drought conditions.
Testing. Okay. Welcome, everybody. The South Weaver City Council meeting of June 22nd, 2021. It is 6:01 p.m. and all council members are in attendance. We will begin with a pledge of allegiance by Councilwoman Alberts and then a prayer by Councilman Halverson.
Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Father who art in heaven, as we come before thee this evening, we're very grateful for the opportunity we have to gather here as members of our community and friends, and we ask that thou will help us to understand the items before us, and that we might be able to make decisions in the best interest of our community and the citizens of South Weaver. We're thankful for all of our freedoms and the opportunity we have to gather. Father, we ask for thy blessing upon our area, that we may receive the moisture which we need for our crops and our fields and for our daily activities. Again, we love thee and thank thee for all that we have, and we say these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councilwoman Alberts, Councilman Halverson. Okay, our next item is public comment. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Please state your name and address the entire council, and know that we won't answer during this time. We're now open for public comment. And hearing none. Okay. We will move on from public comment. If it is okay with the council, we would like to move item number 13, the fireworks ban discussion, to next on the agenda. Does anyone have a problem with that?
Nope.
Okay, then I will turn the time over to Dave to lead that discussion, or did you want someone else to?
No, I'm happy to kick it off. I think everybody knows that we are in a historic drought this year, and with that always comes conversations about potential fire danger. And as we approach fireworks season, just wanted to make sure we have the chance to have a public discussion with the council about what fireworks look like in the city this year. We have essentially the same fireworks map prepared this year with some minor changes that we've had for about the last 5 years. But this is an opportunity for the council to ask any questions about that map, and if there are any changes that they would like to make. Before the discussion gets too far, I'd like to give Jamie an opportunity to talk a little bit about what state law allows us to do and doesn't allow us to do.
Thanks, David. The Utah code, and it's at section 15A-5-202.5, gives the fire chief in South Weaver the authority to determine whether, quote, hazardous environmental conditions exist. If he determines that those conditions exist, then the city has the authority to restrict fireworks in 4 categories of areas. And I'll read through those. And then if you have questions as to what they mean, I'm happy to answer questions about that. The first category is mountainous, brush covered, forest covered, or dry grass covered areas. The second is within 200 feet of waterways, trails, canyons, washes, ravines, or similar areas. The third is the wildland urban interface area. And this means the line, area, or zone where structures or other human development meet or intermingle with undeveloped wildland for an agricultural purpose. And then the fourth is a limited area outside of these 3 areas that may be needed to facilitate a, quote, readily identifiable closed area. That's a fancy phrase for you have to designate a bright line that people can understand for where fireworks are permitted and where they're not permitted. And if in looking for a bright line that you can draw based on landmarks or street grid or something like that, you need to go a little bit beyond those hazardous areas. The statute allows you to do that.
All right, thank you, Jamie. So do we want Chief Tolman, would you like to weigh in on this?
I'm happy to answer any questions you have just for the council's information. The map that we do put together every year, we use these state guidelines to help us create that map as far as wildland urban interface. I guess what we would be discussing tonight is whether we feel the current conditions mean we need to further restrict the map or do an outright ban. And I'm open to guidance there. I can give you some background as far as information as that we've received from the state fire marshal's office. Their hope was that the governor would act. He chose not to. Then their second hope was that the legislature would act. And the reason why is because of these restrictions that they placed on municipalities in, I believe, 2018 to try to kind of tie our hands. The guidance the state fire marshal gave us was to, during these discussions, weigh not just the fire impact, but also the economic impact of people that sell fireworks. They said, if you go too heavy-handed as a municipality, you're opening yourself up to people that use these fireworks stands for livelihood, for them to have recourse. And so that was part of their caution, just of things to consider when you make these outright bans, is whether or not the city feels like they're opening themselves up to potential claims of ruining someone's livelihood. Obviously, protecting lives and property comes before protecting livelihood. And so I'm looking forward to having this discussion with the council to get further guidance on what your opinions are. Obviously, the easy answer would be, you know, with us being in this valley and the threat we have because of our wildland urban interface to come down pretty heavy-handed. I think, especially after talking to Jamie, I think we're within our preview to do that. It's do we do that?
All right. I think today we received an email showing the map of what, do we have that, Lisa? Can you pull that up? Okay, so with that up, council, you have comments or questions?
I just have a item I wanted to know and then also a question. The Country Fair Days Committee just wanted to see if they could get further clarification. They have planned for these fireworks about a year in advance. I know that other cities are going forward with their professional fireworks, but they are still issuing a ban on personal fireworks. Is that an option that we have?
That is definitely an option that we have. And I think the important distinction, mainly for the public, but also for the council, is when we put on a professional show, we have multiple fire crews on standby at that show, ready to extinguish any issues we have immediately, which a private citizen's not going to have 4 brush trucks ready to rock and roll if something goes south for them. And so that's why even Salt Lake City, which issued a citywide ban today, is still planning on moving forward with their 4th of July and 24th of July fireworks. So just doing a ban citywide would not mean that we could not launch fireworks on South Weaver Days.
I think you just answered the question, but do you feel comfortable going forward with our professional fireworks?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I've heard too that if there's a professional fireworks show, it's less likely that citizens will do their own show because they've got that in the wings. But so it might help deter that.
Mayor, one
Yes.
other option that has been discussed on the staff level or that you might see other municipalities choose to do is provide a centralized location and invite people to all come to the same place and light off their personal fireworks somewhat as a group. We've talked through that as staff. There's not really a place within South Weber that would provide that type of opportunity. So although that's a consideration that other municipalities have from staff's perspective, there's not a great option there.
So as I'm looking at this map, my concern would be where Staker Parsons Pit is. We did have that fire last year by Geneva. Was that last year or 2 years ago? Regardless, we had a fire over there.
Right.
No, there was one, more
Oh, yeah.
recent than that. But where that area is really dry and it is near the river where there is a lot of grass, is that something the council would consider extending to include that area north of South Weber Drive and kind of connecting it over to where it says no aerial? Like I can't zoom in, so I can't tell you the quadrants on there, but.
Go ahead, Quentin.
I was just gonna say, I'm good with that because the first bullet point that Amy mentioned was, mountainous, brush covered, forest covered, or dry grass covered. Just driving here from my house, this whole bluff has a whole bunch of dry covered. Dry across the street, there's a vacant lot that's got a whole bunch of dry covered. Down there by Cambridge Crossing, there's a whole bunch of dry grass. I think I would feel comfortable at least expanding it to include all those areas where we've got dry grass in vacant fields and along the hillside, the bluff and whatnot.
Right. And I think the challenge that comes with producing these maps, and it goes to the 4th point in state code, is providing those clear lines and boundaries for people to be able to follow. Because even if we pulled up the WUI map and what's designated as a state as WUI and not WUI, it is a checkerboard. And that would be a nightmare to try to create a map that would match the WUI map. So if we want to narrow it, the restrictions, or do an outright ban. But I agree with you. There's definitely hazardous areas within city limits that aren't included in the band or aerial area. It's just
How
how do you delineate that is the bigger issue.
Well, if we're talking dry grass, that would be my lawn. So
Right.
Well, that's kind of where I was headed is, I mean, I lean more towards, instead of just modifying it for certain areas, that we had to go with an outright ban on all aerial fireworks. Whether or not, I'm open for discussion on the rest. Maybe, I don't know. I'm a big fan of fireworks, so it kind of ruins a lot of things, but it's a different time of year, and I mean, just like you look across the street, that's in the white right now. That would go up in a heartbeat and we'd lose homes. And so that was part of my other discussion item too, is can we make sure Chris is getting out and asking those property owners to take care of that?
I could give you a specific update on that property,
Oh,
but actions are being taken.
And it's not just that one either. We have several across the I've
City.
noticed are bad. So, but I would lean towards more of an outright ban, if not completely, at least for aerial.
what places did you consider to have a gathering place to? I mean,
I can touch on that. I've been considering it for several weeks now. You know, areas that have the things you have to consider is policing, traffic flow, pedestrians, and so when you start breaking it down, and the obvious places to start are the parks, right? What parks do we have enough asphalt or concrete that 50 people can gather with multiple different fireworks setups and launch and not have parking issues and pedestrian issues? And the answer is there really isn't one. And the obvious answers would be, I think the best place in town would be across the street from the fire station at the church parking lot, but I don't control the church parking lot, and that would be completely up to the church. And so obviously as a city, we wouldn't want to volunteer the church parking lot. And so when you go through the options and you weigh each option, it's there wasn't really anything that stood out as being feasible, but we're open to suggestions. If I'm not saying there's not a possibility that I missed an area that might work, but that's kind of where we're at.
we couldn't use the park and ride, could we? I don't.
Yeah, that goes back to the
Yeah.
traffic control issue, pedestrian issues, and who's policing that. I mean, do we want extra fire crews to be? The problem with having the fire department do it is the second we get a call, we're gone, right? And so it's, again, it's just finding a good answer that works for everybody if there is one.
So 2 quick questions. I mean, it's good to say you have a ban, but if you don't enforce it, there's no ban. I mean, before the state of Utah allowed aerial fireworks, they were going off all over the place in the neighborhoods. And I mean, what if we did what Blair's talking about and had, an aerial ban across the city, what enforcement is going to exist? I mean, we don't want all the citizens reporting each other. I mean, would you have Davis County Sheriff? Would Chris have to be here every night, every hour of the night? I mean, how are we going to enforce it?
The primary enforcing agency would have to be the Davis County Sheriff's Office. As fire departments, we do what we kind of consider a show of force on these holidays, where we just kind of drive around and people can see us out and about. And obviously, if we see someone launching fireworks in an area they're not supposed to, we have those conversations with people. But really, it's just to be out and about and let people know that, we're keeping an eye out for things. But as far as actual enforcement, as far as citations and confiscation, that would come down to the sheriff's office, not the fire department.
And if we did, excuse me, whatever we agree to tonight, say we get a major wet weather monsoon season, do we have to come back together and say the ban is no longer here, or is the ban for the rest of the year? I mean,
So
we determine that.
I can give you kind of the wildland perspective on that scenario. So if we had that scenario with a lot of the vegetation already drying out and dying, what would happen is if we got heavy rain, what we would have is live vegetation over dead vegetation, which doesn't really diminish the fire risk at all. And the more likely scenario is we'd get active growth and then a dry spell and it would dry it out. And now we're just talking about more gasoline on the fire. Does that help answer that question?
Yes.
If we got a monsoon, the question would be, who's playing Jumanji?
Oh, I was going to ask Quinn what he's been smoking, but I just wanted to add my 2 cents in regards to this whole discussion is not to penalize, those who are being responsible or irresponsible. I think everyone intends to be responsible when lighting off fireworks, just like everyone who has a campfire or a fire up in the woods doesn't intend to create a forest fire, but accidents happen. And that's what we're trying to mitigate here is, prevent what is which can be preventable. I'm of the opinion, I think we should have a ban across the city of all fireworks. I know that's not going to be popular, but the risk is greater than the enjoyment, especially we have professional fireworks. To Quinn's answer, I think we make a request of Davis County Sheriff to have 2 sheriff's officers patrol the city between certain hours on those days that they're going to be lighting off evening hours, just to show of presence, request our fire crews to do the same and encourage and help people understand it's not that they're being irresponsible. It's just the risk is too great for the city to have to absorb.
Okay. Any other council members want to weigh in on this?
I agree with what's been said. I think that I live up against that bluff and, I can weed whack it down to a certain point, but then it's just too steep and it's a dangerous year. So I agree.
Andy, you wanna say anything?
No, I agree. I'm totally fine banning it because it's just too dry.
So are we banning all or just aerials?
I think Wayne said all, and I would support all.
I think a spark's a spark. I mean, I heard of a contractor just firing up a chainsaw today and started someone's lawn on fire just with pulling the ripcord. I mean, that's how tender it is. So you put a ground thing and it sends a spark over there, it catches one piece of grass, it's going to happen. So I just think, and we can't restrict it to, you have to have 200 feet of blacktop around your area that, it becomes too, how do you enforce that? So rather than try to hodgepodge the area, I just think for this year, for this 4th of July, this 24th of July, we restrict them.
Well, sounds like to me that we have consensus then that we restrict all fireworks within the city for this year.
Does that need a motion? Or is that a
It's a
mayoral thing?
discussion item, so I don't,
Yeah,
does
that-
it require?
Now that I have guidance from the council, that would be a decision that me and the fire marshal make
Yes.
in conjunction with the city attorney. What I would encourage as far as messaging goes to kind of help blunt this a little bit is maybe we just start encouraging people on Facebook and whatever other media outlets the city has to save their fireworks for New Year's. Just say, hey, let's all just have a big firework party on New Year's. And maybe we encourage that as kind of a, hey, we get the people are frustrated and we get the people rely on this for their livelihood. So maybe we even encourage buy now, but shoot them off in December, some kind of messaging to help people feel good about it from both sides.
What if it's still just as dry in December?
Could
Because I
be.
feel like it could be at this
Well,
rate.
we're in big trouble then.
Yeah.
Any restriction on fireworks under this authority has to be done by the city council. So you would have to make a
Have a
motion and then
motion.
vote on that. It typically would require a map or a readily identifiable area where you're voting on the entire boundary of the city. I think that qualifies.
That's what I thought.
So you could do it by motion and then vote.
So can we make a motion on that tonight if it hasn't been noticed? Okay,
It's noticed as a discussion
As
item on the
discussion.
agenda, but
yeah,
you need to take action on that. You can.
okay. Do I have a motion then?
Since everyone's looking my direction, I'll make a motion that for the 2021 season for 4th of July to 24th, we have a complete ban on all fireworks within the South Weber city limits boundaries.
Do you want to add an ability for the professional fireworks of Country Fair Days?
With the caveat that we will allow the professionals to fire off the fireworks for the South Weber Country Fair Days.
Thank you. I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Then we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilman Windsor.
Aye.
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 And the motion carries unanimously. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Derek.
All right, next item is the approval of the consent agenda, which consists of the May 18th, 2021 appeal minutes, the May 25th, 2021 minutes, May check register, and April budget to actual. Are there any comments or questions on the consent agenda?
I just have a question on the, what's this called? The register.
Check register.
On 521, we have remote mics and speakers for 31,750. Is that a replacement of these mics? Or what was that for?
Which page are you on?
Page 34. To Motorola Solutions.
Or is that the,
Motorola, that
there's another shift?
six remote mics that are approved to use
Oh, for the fire
the
department.
CARES money
Oh,
for the fire department.
perfect. Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
Yes, I have a couple questions on the check register. I see that we have visa statements that are dated February and March, yet they're showing up in May's check register. Can that be explained, please?
That works, for example, the expenditures are in February. We get a statement at the beginning of the next month. And then it depends on when we get the receipts from the various purchases before we get it put actually on the books.
So if I understand, the city currently doesn't have any standards or protocols to the time frame in which receipts are to be turned in after the expense has been made.
The receipts are supposed to be turned in by the 15th of
Okay.
the following month.
So Dave, okay. So this is the administrative thing to follow up on the time in this. Okay. The other question is on the financial report. We're getting in June at the end of the fiscal year, April financials. And 2 months behind. Are we going to get May's and June's next month?
It takes, we get our statements for a particular month, our bank statements to begin to work with, and there's expenditures on those. We're still getting things. So this is pretty much the normal timeline that we have, trying to get everything to wrap it up. You will get the May on the same schedule. June, there is a lot that happens in June at the end of the year. And so June is usually not given out until the audit, the final figures. We can give a tentative one for June, but there is an awful lot of journal entries and wrapping up. A lot of expenditures come in for June all the way through August invoices. That's what is the way that our vendors are late sometimes getting our things to us. So the soonest we could really get a good handle on June would probably be September.
Thank you.
Any further comments? Okay, then do I have a motion to approve the consent?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Hey, any other comments? We'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilman Halverson.
Aye.
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 The motion carries. All right, the next item is a public hearing for the budget 2021 amendment number 6. So we've had a few unexpected costs and changes to the budget. We need to open it up and amend the budget. And I'll just turn the time over to Mac. If you could touch on these changes for us before we open the public hearing.
Okay, every year at the end of the year, we've had, well, let me put it first. We've had several changes to the budget throughout this year. The CARES Act was a major reason for those changes, additional expenditures and so forth. And whenever we put the budget together, it is, I say, somewhat of a crystal ball when you're looking 18 months into the future to figure out to try and hit every expenditure right on. So we have several of those. Just to hit on the expenditure side, we have extra money spent on emergency preparedness. That's a $4,000 adjustment. Liquor law enforcement, we got an extra 1,000 in, so we turned that extra 1,000 over. Fire salaries, paramedic services, I think is what equipment, they've had a lot of expenditures on several of their trucks this year. Paramedic service was an unbudgeted amount, and that's where we've relied on other cities to come in and provide us with paramedic service. And then we were billed by those cities when the ambulance came with and I believe all those were from Layton City, who has their own paramedic service. We have 10,000 for the planner. We made a change in that. Barry was our planner. Sherry has been our planner. And so that was 10,000 more than we'd originally planned. And then we've had some additional increases just in park salaries and some overtime and just the work that they're doing there more than what we had originally planned. So it's not a big adjustment when you compare to our total budget. We're adjusting in the general fund an additional 59,000 in expenditures. And in the storm sewer, that's transfers of the storm sewer impact fees over to the storm sewer account. And so we have an additional $15,000 more than we anticipated coming in. So we want to transfer that over to the storm sewer, actual storm sewer fund. So that's a brief summary of what those are. And so public hearing or questions from the council, I'd be happy to answer any additional.
Does the council have any comments or questions? Okay, then do I have a motion to open public hearing for amendment number?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now open for public hearing. And hearing none, we will.
I
Do I
make
have
a motion to close the
close?
public hearing.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that moves us to resolution 21-35, budget 2020-2021 amendment number 6. Are there any further comments or questions from the council? And do I have a motion to approve resolution 21-35?
Mayor,
Go ahead.
Mayor, I make a motion, we approve resolution 21-35, budget 2020-2021 amendment number 6.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any further comment? Then we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilman Windsor.
Aye.
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 The motion carries unanimously. The next item is resolution 21-36, consolidated fee schedule. So tonight's version of the consolidated fee schedule includes a change to the sewer utility fee and sanitation fee. It also includes additional grammar and clarification changes by staff. A list of those changes were included in the packet. Mac, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I gave you, as you remember, 2 weeks ago, we went over the consolidated fee schedule. One of the main areas we were asked to look at was on the various building fees, our business licenses and so forth, how long are they for? And we've gone through and done that. There was a summary of changes that we also added the internal dwelling unit, which was a request to be added. And so unless the council has, I'm happy to answer any other questions the council may have.
Yeah, any comments or questions?
I just have a comment, Mary. I just wanted to just reconfirm that the Parks Committee is still working on the fee schedule to reserve pickleball and basketball, and that will be brought before the council before those facilities are available.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
I do have one additional comment. Maybe the Parks Committee can also consider in that same area, we list fees for reserving Boweries, volleyball courts, ball diamonds and so forth, but we don't put a time frame on any of those. So it could leave it open-ended that if somebody wants to reserve a ball field for $35, they can reserve it for the whole year. Not practical. I think there's some logic behind the fee schedule so people have an understanding of what they're getting for that fee.
Yep, absolutely. We will definitely look into that, add that when we bring the others back.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Then do I have a motion to approve resolution 21-36?
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 21-36, the consolidated fee schedule.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further comment? And let's have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilman Halverson.
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. All right, resolution 21-37, Posse grounds repair. The 2020 windstorm damaged the fence and lawn areas of the Posse ground. Insurance has provided $25,000 for repairs, $5,738.50 for fencing, and $158.15 for road base have already been spent. The remaining money is to be used for fire pit, sprinkler, and sod repair. Public Works discussed the project and requested quotes from 3 companies, but ultimately only Groundworks submitted a bid for $18,000 plus tax. Are there comments or questions on this? Then do I have a motion to approve resolution 21-37?
Mayor, I'll make that motion to approve resolution 21-37, the Posse grounds repair.
Do I have a second? Oh, to who?
Oh, sorry, to
Groundworks
Groundworks for 18,000
plus tax.
plus tax.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further comment? Shelley, you can choose.
You can pick Haley.
Can I make on tax? On a bid like that, they only tax materials. They can't tax their labor on that. It's not correct.
That's my understanding.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's not 6.5% on the whole entire 18,000.
Okay.
Okay.
That's a good clarification. Thanks, Blair.
Good
Should we
comment.
revise the motion to state that?
It'd be illegal
As
for
long
them to.
as long
do
as they,
tax on-
as long as they monitor, I'm okay with that.
Is that typical to just say plus tax
It's,
when we get? I mean, it should be
That's
obvious what the
not-
tax is.
I haven't seen that very frequently. It's not common necessarily to bid like that.
Are we okay with that?
As a general rule, the city is tax exempt and we do not pay any sales tax.
But that is for materials we purchase. If somebody else purchases them on our behalf, then we have to pay the sales tax.
or give them your sales tax ID number.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, does the motion and second stand?
Yeah.
Any further comment? We'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilman Windsor.
Aye.
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 And the motion carries unanimously.
Mayor,
Yes.
just from a project completion standpoint, you'll notice that part of that is for lawn and sprinkler repair. This is not the season to be replacing sod. And so there's been conversation with the contractor on potentially delaying that portion of the project. So you may see activity there, but the timeline of the project may feel like a long project. Why are they not doing very much? But we don't want to remove a bunch of sod and have open dirt right before Country Fair days and then not be able to put water on new sod due to the watering situation. So
Thank you.
we are cognizant of that and want to be wise with water. And so the timeline of that project may adjust based on that.
So two of the items involved concrete with all the concrete shortages. Is that also going to be delayed?
We've been told that that won't be a problem for this project, but that's something that we've been asking on every type of project that we're bidding right now. We are being told that concrete is sort of stabilizing, which that phrase provides only a little bit of comfort. Stable is relative. But
They're not rationing it like they were, so.
yeah,
That's good.
I've heard that from multiple contractors that it is starting to stabilize and more normal conditions, but I don't think we'll truly see that until probably next construction season.
All right, thank you. Let's move to our next item, Resolution 21-38, proposed property tax certified tax rate. Each year, the county looks at all properties in our city and determines their assessed value. They work with the state to determine the certified tax rate for the city. This year, the city will be holding a truth and taxation hearing on August 17th, 2021 regarding the proposed tax rate. The final certified tax rate will subsequently be adopted on August 24th, 2021. Tonight, the City Council is adopting a proposed rate that will be used for the truth and taxation hearing. The proposed property tax rate for 2021 is 0.001522 for an estimated revenue of $932,646. Mac, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I will just note that this was a city council discussion previously. What is being proposed tonight is what the council had decided on, which is basically last year, hold the same rate for the city as last year and add the rate that was the paramedic tax rate from last year, adding those two together and just using those same two rates. We do have to adopt a proposed tax rate by state law if we're not, since we're having, this isn't our final, since we're having a truth in taxation, we have to adopt some rate before the end of the month. And then that is the rate that will go out on all notifications in the press and so forth that we do for our truth in taxation. And that is the rate that will be discussed at the public hearing. Following that public hearing, the following week, we will adopt a final certified tax rate based on that hearing and what the council decides to do after the hearing,
Can you remind me of the date for the truth and taxation?
August 17th.
Thank you.
All right, are there comments or questions?
Mayor, make a motion that we approve resolution 2138, adopting the proposed certified tax rate of 001522 for the fiscal year 22.
Seconded.
It's actually for 2021. It's this year's tax rate.
Well,
Goes out on our
2021
staff.
for the,
Yeah. Yes.
thanks for that
Seconded.
clarification.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further comment? Then we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilman Halverson.
Aye.
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 The motion carries unanimously. All right, item number 10 is the fraud assessment report, and I will turn the time over to Mac to summarize that.
Okay, the South Weber City takes its financial responsibilities, its fiduciary responsibilities very seriously. We have enacted many policies, procedures, and so forth, internal controls within the city for the safety of all city assets, and in particular with this fraud risk assessment, the cash, the money that the city holds. This fraud risk assessment is just one indicator of how well we are doing. We've taken the fraud risk assessment to the audit committee. They have looked it over. Last year we were at moderate. This year we have made an improvement, and it is the audit committee, which is also the finance and admin committee. They wear two hats, have recommended and for us as a goal to drop this one more by the end of the year and to increase the assessment, which is the number of points that you earn, to take it to have 20 more points earned. We are actively working on that. That is not a hard goal to meet. Most of that will be working on additional policies and taking those policies and incorporating them in the city's policies and procedures manual. So we will bring those policies back as one unit, all incorporated in the policies and procedures manual. And that should happen by the end of the year or in the January timeframe, but that is the goal. And we, last year, like I said, we went from moderate to low, and our goal is to be in the very low category, which means we are doing all that we can for the security.
We're only 20 points from the low category. So I just want to chime in, Mayor, and just say kudos to staff in taking the governance of the audit and the finance administrations committee and to heart, and finding those areas where we can improve and moving us from fraud risk moderate to fraud risk low, almost to very low. And it's quite the accomplishment. So thank you.
Yes, I agree. Thank you, Mac and financial team. Appreciate that. Other comments? Okay, then do I have a motion to approve the fraud assessment report?
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, any further comment? We don't need a roll call vote for this, do we? So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Our next item is garbage can purchase. South Weber City has purchased various types of residential curbside garbage cans from various providers in the past, trying to find the best price for the type that will withstand the typical wear and tear in the city. Public Works has found through that experience that Toter is able to provide the type of can with the needed level of weight and durability, lid latches, and stackability for storing large quantities. Toter is on the state contract, and their quoted price for 624 cans is $38,364.89. In past years, the city has purchased 300 cans at a time, which is just less than half a truckload. The purchase being presented to the council today for approval is for a full truckload, 624 cans, to receive the best price per can rate available. This purchase will come from the fiscal year 2022 budget. No purchase was made during the fiscal year 2021 budget due to inventory quantities, so that money will be carried over. The tentative budget only included half a load, but can and will need to be adjusted prior to the final adoption to include the cost of the full load. The budgeted amount was $16,000. The bid amount is $38,364.89. Are there comments or questions?
How fast do we go through cans? Is this like 2 years worth, 5 years worth
Well, we typically have purchased about 300 cans per year.
per year?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we
2 years
we
worth.
hope that this would be a 2-year purchase. However, that is totally dependent on the number of new homes in the city and any replacement cans that have to take place. So the city purchases the cans and provides those to new residents. The sanitation fee on the utility fee that people pay each month that the residents pay is for the collection and the dumping fees, not the per can fee. And so the city purchases those and provides those.
Thank you.
And we did run out of cans last year, correct?
So we did not purchase this current fiscal year, but if you remember, the end of last fiscal year became quite a little bit of a time crunch for us. We try to keep no less than 50 cans, and typically we're able to order and within 3 weeks or so get an order. But now we're being told it's about 3 months out, and so we don't want to get that low again. It only takes one subdivision to come in to knock out a whole bunch of that inventory. So I think it's a great plan personally to plan this out a little bit longer periods of time and be able to purchase the full load. It gives us the best rate possible and has the type of inventory there that we can feel comfortable with and hopefully last for a while.
Where do we store these?
Behind the public workshop.
Is there sufficient funds in the enterprise fund to account for the additional cost that we'll absorb?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? And do I have a motion to approve the garbage can purchase with toter for $38,364.89?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further comment? We'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilman Windsor.
Aye.
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 And the motion carries. All right. The next item is a discussion item, is the auditor contract, and I'll turn the.
So we have had a conversation with our admin finance committee as it relates to our auditor contract, and the committee is bringing forward a discussion item to the council to weigh in on before we proceed with finalizing a contract with an auditor. The current auditor that we have has done a fantastic job. We feel very comfortable with them. We've been with them 5 years. The history of it is that they gave us a price for a 4-year contract at $10,000 with no increases. So we had a $10,000 contract for 4 years. Last year, they gave us a one-time price for $12,000 that ended up being $12,500 based on some complexities with the audit that showed up last year due to CARES money and things. I should amend that statement. It was a $10,000 contract for the 1 year, but the $2,500 increase was due to those complexities. So we paid a total price of $12,500 last year. The intent, I believe, was to do a bid at that point, go out for proposal, potentially give us another year with them, and potentially look at RFP at that point. The timing is such now where audit season is kind of upon us. That's on staff for not bringing that forward soon enough to do that full RFP process. However, we, again, are comfortable with our current auditor, and they have given us a renewal contract option for 5-year extension So 5 more years with them at a starting point of $12,000 the first year and a 3% increase annually from there for those 5 years. The committee looked at that and said, we're comfortable with that price. We're comfortable with our auditor, but philosophically, there's the idea of testing the market, going out for RFP at a certain period of time just to double check and make sure. So that's why the 3 options are presented to the council tonight of simply accept the current proposal there from our current auditor at that 12,000 price plus 3% over 5 years, or they have told us that they're willing to give us the $12,000 price for 1 year, and then we could look at being on top of doing an RFP process beginning of the year in January, something like that timeframe. So we'd have a market check and either stay with them or go with whatever we do at that point for next year's audit. Or the other option is, even though there's a time crunch here before audit season, to try to quickly do an RFP and see where we're at. Those are the 3 options. And before we brought forward a finalized contract, we wanted to present that as a committee to the council for feedback and weighing in how the council feels of those options.
Does the audit committee have a recommendation?
Yeah, our recommendation was the second one where we sign on for 1 year, do an RFP, and then know if we're still getting a good deal or not next year.
Okay. Are there questions or comments by the council?
I support that recommendation.
I agree. I think that if it's this close to audit season, it would be irresponsible of us to put an RFP out, but it also is good for us to make sure we're getting the best value and best price with an RFP next year. So option 2 is great for me.
All right.
I would agree. Option 2, as
Okay.
long as we get the RFP out.
All right. And Wayne's part of the committee, which decided that. So looks like we are in agreement to go with option number 2. So that's
Okay,
our direction.
We'll bring that forward as an action item for the council's official consideration.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And can we put a note on the calendar for next year so we definitely catch it early?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is new business. I just have a couple items and then I'll open it to council. We have a couple of people gone for our July 13th council meeting. And so we were wondering at the possibility of moving that meeting to the 20th of July and having a July 20th and a July 27th meeting and not holding a meeting on the 13th. Does anyone have a problem with that schedule?
Works for me. Works for me too.
Okay.
Give me a second.
It works for me.
All right.
The 27th, I will not be here.
Okay. What about the 20th?
I'll be here on the 20th.
Okay. All right.
The 20th and 27th both work for me.
Great. Okay. It looks like the 20th will be all right then. So we will reschedule. That means we have 3 Tuesdays off, doesn't it? Is that right?
Yeah, next Tuesday is a 5th Tuesday, which we don't have a city council meeting. And then the first Tuesday we wouldn't. And now the second Tuesday we wouldn't. So
Wow.
happy
Paul, you
summer.
better go on vacation right now. All right. Okay. And I know. All right. And the other, it was brought to my attention that we need to talk about the council being in the parade and how we want to do that. And so I'm open to ideas.
Oh, I have lots of ideas. I'll
Go
get
for it.
shut down on all of them like I did last year. Who is planning to attend or to be here that week, that day?
I am.
I will.
It's the 7th, correct?
Yes.
I will be here.
Blair will be there with bells on.
I will be. I'll be happy to be there. Huh? On the
Okay.
I'm not here on the first Saturday, but I'm here on the second Saturday.
I should be here on the second Saturday.
Angie, will you be here?
I am here.
Okay, it looks like everyone's here.
The first Saturday is
Of Country
Well,
Fair Days.
of
meeting.
Country Fair Days,
Well, it's still the 7th, which is
Yes.
also still the first Saturday.
the first Saturday of
Forward.
Country Fair Days. I'm not here for the golf tournament.
Okay.
Okay.
He
Here for
said
the
he wasn't going to
7th.
be
Out of
here.
the
I was
month.
giving him a hard
Pickleball
time
tournament.
right before the.
I'm here for the pickleball tournament. I don't know.
Yes.
That's
the
on
important-
July 31st, same as the golf tournament.
Oh, good. I won't be here.
Okay.
Okay, tell me, shoot, what your ideas?
Oh.
Well, so in the past, we've had like a
Yeah.
trailer
Mm-hmm.
with the hay on.
Yes.
And Blair has been kind enough to provide that for the council to ride on.
Is
That's,
that something that you'd be willing to do?
If that's what we want to do, I'm happy to do it.
I really like
It's easy to do.
because we were all together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but did you have any other ideas?
Can we do fireworks on the back? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get all right on you.
Waterworks?
Waterworks will work.
I request that we have some really awesome music playing. That's my only request.
Okay, so do you want to bring the sound system?
No,
We'll
a
bring
sound system,
sound
yes, not
system?
Taylor Swift. No, we don't want the, don't ask her to bring the music.
My music. I'm sorry, but my music. Saying good music.
We'll all
I've
be
never.
Swifties at the end of the day.
While Taylor Swift does live at the top of my list, I have very great music.
We may
taste.
need a speaker that you can hear better than the truck speakers.
Yes.
Okay.
I can
Can we
provide
use
that.
the sound system? Would that be an
Yeah,
approved use?
Can't we use that?
Or will they be using it at the PA?
Well, don't we have
You
two?
would neither need an inverter in the truck
We have,
or
we have a 120 plug in the truck.
you do have. then
Blair
you-
has
then you could use the
everything.
new
Blair.
system.
No,
That's.
Doesn't have a speaker system.
I don't have a good speaker.
For my music.
I've tried that already.
I have one that doesn't require power. It has battery operated. It's pretty big, so
That's because I bet we're using the other one for the PA
I
system.
believe so.
Do we need to ask permission of the driver, which would be Terry or Courtney?
No, they'll be great.
That'd be all right?
They'll be good.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Do
Are
we-
we good with that?
Yeah.
Yep.
I just had a question. Who signs us up for the, is that
Entry.
staff or is that
That'd
on?
be our chair of that committee,
like,
our
yeah,
liaison.
I'm happy to do it. I got to send the YCC up so I can do us at the same time. and Are good with that.
I think they just plan on it, but yeah.
Okay. They do want an entry. I was specifically told, make sure you
Okay.
get an entry. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, it's set. Is there other new business?
I just have one. I had a resident reach out to me about the FAC. The air conditioner is either not on or is just really bad. I know that it's tied with the school district. But with the heat temperatures that we've been having, she says it's just about unbearable at any time of the day. But you know, you go there to exercise and it's just too hot. Is
I
there
know
anything you
the
can?
doors were open today and the fans were blowing. Is the system out? Have you heard that, anything like that?
I haven't heard anything like that.
When school's out, they tend to turn it off, and so it affects the rec center.
Yeah, she said that she asked about it and they said they're dictated by this district, so they're kind of at the mercy of the district. But I was wondering if there is a way that we can work with them better.
Well, yeah, we need to
That's
have.
not gonna.
see.
I feel like we should just maybe approach them and kind of renew our agreement with them. I feel like it's been so long that it's kind of been well, they were gonna do, and now it's our.
Are you
we would-
volunteering yourself?
I really prefer to
Thanks, Angie.
volunteer Wayne, but I'll do it. Yeah, I can help with that.
You can
but-
volunteer your vice chair.
Oh, check that out.
I know Curtis works very closely with them on lots of things throughout the whole year. I know that the council hasn't necessarily interfaced directly based on that agreement, but staff has very, very consistently and very directly. But I'm happy to reach out to Curtis. That's the first I'm hearing that there's an issue like this, and see where we're at and bring back a report to the council.
All right. If you would do that, that'd be great.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
And just, David, on that, if he does need somebody to interface with the district, I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you.
All right. Any other reports?
I just had a quick question. So it has been brought to my attention, people are asking about the dog park, and we put it off to ensure that the sod was taking. We reviewed it. It looks great. It looks like it's ready to open. Dave is working with the developer so we can get the lock. And so what's the status update on that? Because we're going to open it as soon as it's available to us.
That is the status update. We will open it as soon as it's available to us.
Are we gonna have a ceremony like we planned before, or can we get the date out so people know?
The conversation that the Parks Committee has had just internally as a committee was rather than pre-announce a ceremony, that because it's simply a ceremony, that we would probably take some pictures and have maybe a quiet ceremony and then announce that it is open, so that we're not establishing an expectation early. Like we said, as soon as we're able to open that, we can go open the doors and then announce that it's open, rather than try to pre-plan and pre-schedule an event. As soon as it's available, we'll just announce that it's open. That was the thinking, if the council's okay with that.
As long as we can have some Taylor Swift music.
I was looking forward to that. Yeah.
The Parks,
You're
the
on
Parks
it.
Committee needs to be,
With the
In the vote.
chainsaw, don't start it though. It'll light on
Except
fire.
I won't be in town. Which makes,
That is
oh,
unfortunate.
maybe that's true. We don't know for sure. That's true.
She's trying to dodge the bullet already.
All right.
I will say that we are working out just some minor elements of the details related to public use on that prior to it becoming publicly owned and maintained. So typically when a development occurs and there is infrastructure that a developer installs, once it's installed and completed, staff will go and inspect it and do a punch list to make sure everything's in order. And that kicks off a 1-year warranty period where the city does not take ownership yet and use. The developer still maintains it. They still go out and mow and trim and all of that type of thing. That's still in place. It has not entered the warranty period yet. And so there's some details as far as if there's damage that occurs because the city is inviting public use onto this property that is still privately maintained. We want to get that in writing so that there's not any questions about who should be responsible for any of that specific type of damage. So not just we need the combination for the lock. We want to make sure there's some other things written and in place so there's not any questions there. And so we're trying to just nail that down as well. We were working toward that end prior to not opening previously. And then when we didn't open it, it gave us a little bit of additional time and other things kind of rose up. And so we haven't revisited that. We need to revisit that and get that nailed down. So that's part of the delay as well. It's not just making a phone call and getting a key. I hope that makes sense.
That's great. Thank you.
Maybe instead of ribbon cutters, we could just bring bolt cutters. Just kidding. Don't tell Mark I said that.
I think that would be documenting the wrong type of activity. We want to make sure we're on good terms and we're working well with the developer there.
Right. That was strictly a joke.
I took it as such.
Okay. All right. Any other new business? All right. Hearing none, we'll move to reports. I had a COG meeting this past week, and I just wanted to give you a report on Hill Air Force Base and Northrop Grumman, because it gives a little bit different perspective than sometimes we see just inside our city boundaries. The Hill Air Force Base population and jobs have been stable from 2010 to 2019. So consequently, the Utah Defense Alliance received a ground-based strategic deterrent, or GBSD, contract award in 2020. That's a $75 billion multi-decade program, and Northrop Grumman Corporation is the prime contractor. So U.S. Air Force estimates 125% additional community economic impacts above salaries. So the combination of the Air Force and Northrop Grumman will generate 4,700 more new jobs. That's on top of the 2,000 that have already come as a result of this. The Hill Air Force Base population right now is just under 31,000. And by 2025, it is anticipated to be 40,000 plus. So the problem is there is nowhere to house these new workers. And so that could be one of the big reasons that the state legislature is pushing for more moderate income and high density housing. Just to give you a little bit of perspective.
Joe, did you say 75 billion with a B?
75 billion multi-decade program. Yeah, it's huge. So, all right. And that's all I have to report, I believe. Let's go to Councilman Windsor.
The Code Committee continues to meet. We're focused on many different aspects of Title 10. Today's discussion, we were talking about Title 10, Chapter 15, which has to deal with landscaping, knowing that we're in a hot, dry season, and so conservation is on our minds. We want to look at that with regards to, revisiting what our code states and making sure it's amenable to today's new growth. Outside of that, staff's working on 6 other aspects of code, from noise to dust to internal accessory dwelling units. Can't remember all of them, but that packet of work will come back to the Code Committee we will be meeting on July the 13th, but no, we won't be meeting on July 13th. We will be meeting on July the 20th.
Yeah.
So we'll meet next Tuesday, and then we'll have 2 weeks off, and we'll meet again on July the 20th and revisit that work that the staff is preparing. So.
All right. Thank you. Councilwoman Petty.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a few items. First, our youth city council, we had a fun activity. We just went on a hike with everybody and it was great. And I just wanted to put a plug to let everybody know that the applications for next year's youth city council should be on the website in the next few weeks. So putting that plug out there for that. We had the Parks Committee met with the Train Club. We discussed a few things with contracts and changes. So that discussion will be coming forward for the council shortly. And we have another park. So we're meeting bi-weekly with Hogan for our Canyon Meadows West park update. We'll be meeting with them on Thursday, as well as a group of residents who are somewhat experts, I would call them, in the bike track area. And they're going to help us know what we need to plan for, what we should avoid, and they're going to help us with that design aspect. So that will also be on Thursday.
Great.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Councilman Soderquist.
So Mayor, you can probably add to the first report I got, US 89 updates. In the meeting they held last week, they were talking about, all of the different shortages, cement being one. They've been working under 1/4 the amount that they had planned. And so that's kind of pushed back some of their completion timing and had them need to revise the different aspects that they were changing and whatnot, but they're still moving forward. And as the mayor mentioned previously, there's a separate contract to change the US 84 Highway 89 interchange. And we've had some input from the residents about the backup currently getting off of northbound Highway 89 and having the stop sign there and trying to address that. And I've been talking with the manager that is going to be over the US 89 I-84 effort. He's also the one on the current 89 widening effort, but about some ways that we might be able to address that hopefully before it becomes a bigger issue. But so anyway, there is work and discussions taking place on the Highway 89 expansion. I don't know, Mayor, if you have any further information you think needs to be brought forward this time on that.
I think you've
Okay.
covered it. So.
The other thing I have, we met, well, you heard about the Admin Finance Committee reports and all the different things we talked about tonight. The other thing is the gravel pits. We met with the gravel pit representatives, and they, similar to all the residents in South Weber, are also under water restrictions. And so the berm, as you will drive by, will see that it's not getting all the water that it needs. It's drying out also. And so they would just like some understanding that they're under the same water restrictions we are for watering. Also, their watering time is kind of during the day so that they don't draw down the power of all the residents. And so some people have complained saying, why are you guys watering in the middle of the day? And well, that's kind of the explanation for some of these larger parks and churches and the gravel pits. Their time is to water during the day generally, but they're going to try to adjust that so that it's not a visual, concern. But anyway, did you want to say?
Yeah, just to add to that, it's a difficult balance. Although we as a city are not operating secondary water, we are not a secondary water system. It's difficult for pressurized systems to have everybody water at the same time. And so I hope in all of our efforts for conservation and logically, it makes so much sense to not water in the middle of the day for evaporation reasons and whatnot. Sometimes there are other considerations for other users to be watering at other times that may seem counterintuitive. And I hope that there's just understanding there. Again, we're not secondary water providers, but I've watched that play out over and over and over, that some of those larger water users that help offset and balance those times so that residents have enough water pressure then get lots of complaints their way because they're not water wise and they're just trying to help out.
That's good to know.
The other thing is they use a lot of water to dampen the dust that comes up, and that water is also being restricted. And so, unfortunately, there's probably going to be an increase in some dust coming out of the gravel pits because they're not allowed to, they're being monitored on the water they use to try to keep the dust down. They're going to do all they can to try to manage it, but kind of just giving us a heads up that, there could be some increase. They're trying to put down slurry and things on the roads and other areas that they typically don't have to do as often, trying to mitigate what they can.
I've seen that already. I mean, we've noticed that. It's been a windy year too.
It has. Yeah, there's been several mornings where you can see it blowing out, and they're aware of that. They do have the monitoring that there's a state requirement that they can't exceed a certain amount of airborne particulate, and that's monitored. And if they ever exceed that, they have to shut down. So that will continue. And they may have more days that they'll have to, shut down until the wind stops or whatever. The last thing relative to the gravel pits is we are going to start installing around the city some dust collection boxes. And this is mainly just an information gathering effort. We've talked about it a lot with the gravel pits and city staff, trying to see, can we at least understand where the most dust is being blown and where is it coming from? And so those will be put out starting in July in different areas through the city. There'll be at least one at the mouth of the canyon to see what dust is just blowing into our city that's not, the gravel pit related. And there will be then collection boxes on just the west side of Geneva, and then also the west side of Staker Parson. And then there will be some further in down the city. There will be one here at City Hall and a few other places. I think we've got 17 places identified. And so we'll be collecting those over the next couple of months, just trying to get an idea of where it's going. The people will ask, well, what are you going to do with it? We don't know. But until we know what we don't know, we
Don't
you
know.
Don't know. So instead of just hiding our head in the sand and say, well, we have a problem and we just hope it blows away, pun intended, it's not going to. So we're going to gather information and once we see that, we'll go from there.
Are both gravel pits receptive to that?
It's a good question. Staker is, Geneva wasn't in the meeting. They were in a prior one where we were talking about it and they didn't have any major objections to it. But we hadn't finalized, what we were going to do. So I'll have to follow up with Geneva and make sure they're aware.
That was one of my other questions. Is Geneva attending those meetings?
They have
Occasionally.
occasionally, yeah, not as much as Staker has.
Okay. You'll see why I'm asking.
Okay,
Oh.
that's all.
Do you think there's potential of being able to identify what types of sand are in those boxes and so that we can track where it came from?
There is. We've done some sample collection already, and you can take a microscopic view of the dust and the processes that Geneva and Staker are doing for some of their operations is different, and it creates a different grain. So we'll see, how much difference we can determine, but in the initial sampling we did, it looks like it's possible.
All right. Thank you. Councilwoman Alberts.
Just if you're looking for volunteers for those boxes, my front porch is really a fantastic place.
Okay.
Okay, so the PR committee, Dave and I were able to meet with the developer of our website and kind of get a couple of little hangups fixed and created. We are just waiting for our login. They have our login credentials, and so we need to be able to log in and move some items around and kind of work with the flow of the website. And they still have not sent those over, to my knowledge. Is that
They
okay?
sent an email today asking some follow-up information. I responded to that. So hopefully we'll get it here soon.
Okay. And that's all I have.
All right. Thank you. Councilman.
Planning Commission was busy. I think most of you have seen or heard about what was going on in Planning Commission, but to just do a quick summary, there were the final plat or site improvement plans for Riverside Place Phase 4 came and was approved. And I believe that still is coming to council, correct?
Riverside 4 is still coming to
Yes,
council.
okay. I put approved and didn't put recommended approval. That is one of my areas that I think Chris needs to look at it for fire hazard on all those empty lots there. It's about 4 foot tall over there. There was a public hearing and action on a rezone request by Geneva Rock. And that's the reason for they didn't attend their own public hearing and rezone request. So the item was tabled and recommended that they need a new CUP. And one of the items that came up in that discussion from some of the people that have been involved in the city in the past, that at one point they did have an agreement with the city. And it's always been my understanding that they didn't have an agreement with the city. And so I don't know if that's something staff can try to look for again. I know we have, but according to a couple of the older gentlemen, there was that were on the gravel committee, did put an agreement with them together in the past. So,
Well, we will do some research.
okay. And that was one of the Paul brothers that brought that up. There was also a public hearing and rezone request for 2.7 acres and from agricultural to commercial highway, and 8.85 from agricultural to R7, which is on the Paul property. And that was recommended for approval then to come forward to city council. And then there was also an action and rezone request from 18 acres from agricultural to commercial highway on the Stevens property over on 475 and 6650. And that was recommended for approval and we come before the council. So that just gives you an idea of what's coming towards you. And I would advise you, if you didn't listen to city or planning commission, to do so to kind of come up to speed on those items. That's all I have.
All right, thank you.
Conserve water, please. That's all. That's my other push. So my phone quits ringing.
All right, thank you, Councilman Halverson. Dave, did you have any other reports?
The only thing I have to report is that we have offered a new community services director. His name is Trevor Cahoon. He has accepted our offer, slated to begin work after the 4th of July on July 6th. So we're thrilled to have him on board. At the same time, an interesting juxtaposition, knowing that that means we're saying thank you and goodbye to Sherry, who's been an incredible contract city planner for us over the last 6 months. So feelings of excitement for the future and appreciation to Sherry for all that she's done in her short time with us.
All right, thank you. Mac, did you have anything else?
Yes, we formally applied this week for the American Rescue Plan Act funds. We have the final figure. It'll be $927,395 coming into, which is not quite, but close to $100,000 more than we thought, or was originally told that we would be receiving. We haven't got the deadline when that is, but we did send the state send us a form, and we did fill out the form, and so all the paperwork is done. I will note that over the next 3 years, while we have this money, we've always talked about this as the American Rescue Plan Act, but there's a whole new acronym because the act designated the money that comes to the cities as the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund monies. And so CLFRF, and we've all got to learn a new acronym, especially me, because I've been calling it one thing, and then when I filled out the form, they said, it says, this is the money you're applying for. And I thought, where did that name come from? But I guess it's somewhere in the act. So the money coming specifically to local governments is called the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund.
CLFRF.
So anyway, but the good news was we've applied and we have the final figure, and which was higher than we thought. And as we've had the discussions in the past, over the next year or two, we'll be going over and looking at what those funds can be used for as we get additional guidance. And we will have actually till December of 2024 to spend the money. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mac. Michelle, Lisa, anything to add? All right. Well, Mac, you must be running your program well, because we're done at 7:21 and it's been your agenda tonight. So impressive.
It's kind of like staff meetings when I'm gone and Mac runs staff meetings. They're done so much quicker than when I'm around. I am taking no offense to that.
All right. If there's nothing else,
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? A meeting is